is very, very helpful. You get immediately wider perspective. So a Buddhist student who study and practice these things, with this, then look different for the events. Sometimes may have little different view. So perhaps although these, so therefore some of my view about the current sort of problem, you may have some further new way to look. Otherwise, I think the sort of current the current event, I think you may have better knowledge than me. So, in terms of the lecture, in terms of boring,
so this being the case, through the lecture that I give you, instead of gaining some kind of insight, you may feel bored.
Now about non-violence. I believe fundamentally we human beings, we love growth, something fresh. We love that. So I think obviously at springtime, everything growing, everything fresh. So we feel more happy. And autumn, leaf around, color change, and grassland become something dry. Comparatively, not so happy moment. And also sunrise, fresh, everything fresh. Sunset, some people loves to see the sunset, but basically sunset, not that kind of freshness. So naturally, I think everywhere, birthday, something, everybody happy. The death day, everybody sorrow, right? Maybe few exceptions. I think generally, you see the growing or more blossoming, right? Blossoming is good. Decaying, dying is not happy one. So, what is the demarcation? Violence and non-violence. We cannot divide easily on the basis of action or appearances. But the violence, non-violence, I think in order to make sort of a distinction, violence, non-violence, ultimately depend on our motivation. Motivation, want to harm another, want to cheat, want to exploit. With that motivation and verbal action as well as physical action, that's essentially violence. Other hand, with sense of concern, with sense of care, sense of compassion, with that motivation, verbal action, physical action, sometimes appears more harsh, but essentially non-violence. Because the sense of concern is helping to sustain or to grow. Hatred or sense of harming, sense of elimination, sense of defeat. So basically, we human beings, as I mentioned earlier, human nature, again, I think, from the day of our birth,
From the first day of her birth,
we already, I think, very much in some kind of spirit of compassion. That feeling not come from teaching, not come from religion, but by nature as well. Nature sort of, biologically. For example, according to modern medical scientists, after birth, the mother or someone else's physical touch is very, very important, crucial factor for enlargement of the brain of the child. So, biologically speaking, the affection is immense sort of important factor for survival and also growth. So these are by nature. And so the affection, warm-heartedness, closeness feeling, that from the first day after born till our death, I think this human affection always remains important element for better life. Anger, hatred comes, of course, part of our mind, but occasionally comes, not permanent, dominant sort of force in our mind. And these negative mind actually harmful, mentally harmful, because the hatred, anger, strong anger comes immediately, peace of mind no longer there. Secondly, as I mentioned before, the hatred, anger, these are also the greatest sort of obstacle to see the reality. Then physically also, the anger, hatred continuously remains in one's own mind or emotion.